So here we go.
Yeah, I think we're ready. I think we've played teams that have a bunch of wins. We play teams that don't. We've played close games. We've played games where we've beaten teams by a lot. We've played, teams where we had to win with special teams, offense, defense, whatever case, running ball, whatever case. And so I feel that we're ready for just about anything, hot weather, cold weather, whatever the case may be. We're going to go out there and go out there and fight. I do know that, and I like our chances, us versus anybody.
All right, guys, welcome to Bears in the Neighborhood. A little bit different this week. Chirag is out. He is in Paris, France. So happy to still have you guys join us. We're joined with a good friend of mine and our co-host for today, Mr. Neil Libner. Neil, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Happy to be the stand-in bearded face for the pod today.
We just need to get you a bucket hat, and then you'll be good to go. So normally I get asked this question, but I'm going to throw it over to you for today's episode. That was a pretty dominating victory. We were texting back and forth throughout the game, liked what we saw, not really a lot to be critical about. But tell me, what did we learn about the Bears this week after their beatdown of the Browns?
I think we learned that we can consider ourselves a contender. Like you said, we were dominant in most aspects of that game, minus the people who play with their feet, but we could talk about that later. This was a game we needed to come out strong. We did that. It was an opponent we couldn't be down to the wire against. We weren't. We played with grit, physicality. It seems like everyone's got each other's backs. We're not even at full strength right now. Looking at the season as a whole, several games that we would have lost in previous years. This coaching staff is a huge factor. I mean, look at the numbers. Defense, number 1 in takeaways. We are tied for the second lowest in giveaways. We're number 2 in rushing, number 5 total offensively. There's some unquantifiable piece of this whole thing that I don't know how to explain, but it just seems like we've got it, whatever it is. And we're way ahead of schedule for this team with Caleb really in year 1 of this offense. So why not this year? So, yeah, I think we learned that we need to take ourselves as a contender at this point.
I love the way you phrase that, taking ourselves as a contender, because I think for most of this season, even up until the Eagles game, it was just kind of an happy to be here, like everything's kind of gravy from here on out. We've, like you said, exceeded expectations. Well, why not? Why not try and go for it, right? Why not try and see how far this team can go? I think you used the word grit. I think that perfectly describes this team. They are tough. They're resilient. You never really feel out of it with them. So I totally agree with your assessment. Was there anything in particular that stood out to you during that game at all?
I think Caleb playing on time, he was in the rhythm. I don't think the stat line shows how good he actually played in that. So if you were to add the 3 or 4 drops back in there, then he's 21 of 28 with even more yards on there. One guy maybe goes for a touchdown on one of those. So I really like to see the way he played. I don't know that that second quarter was the best. I think you had messaged me during the game that Ben doesn't seem to have any trust in the Cleveland's offense, so maybe doing things a little bit more aggressively than we would have. Even where we know we're a little bit weak, it's a linebacker covering a speedy guy like Bond. It was a bend not break. We got look 3 takeaways. Like, you can't be mad about that. 5 sacks. I think it was 5 or 6 negative passing plays. The run game completely shut down. It's getting nitpicky, but what's not to like about that game?
Yeah, you nailed it. And luckily, there's stat nerds that come up with those advanced metrics. So I think Caleb's adjusted completion percentage was 80.8%. So what that means is they take out the drops and throwaways, like obvious non-completion type of passes, and it was like 81%. So yeah, probably his best game ever. Me and you talk about it, right? He still misses some of the easy stuff, and you're like, it was a little high, timing was off. None of those seemed on him, and it was like awesome to watch him. Just like, I mean, the prayer ball was, I don't know if we want to call it a prayer ball, what you want to call it, but that was ridiculous. That was one of the most ridiculous throws I've seen anybody attempt and complete in my watching football.
Yeah, 100%. Real quick, going back to that, with the adjusted, what it doesn't factor into that was a game of brutal throwing conditions. It was freezing out there, and he was, for the most part, there weren't, balls sliding out of his hands or airmailing everything like that. That wasn't an easy game to be slinging the rock, and he was on it. That prayer ball, or I don't know, heart attack ball. I don't know what it was, but I saw him rolling out there. It was one of those like just throw it away. And when he slung it across his body, it's like, was it picked off? Like, there's two guys that could get there, and then you see DJ come down with it and like, full poise, flip the ball up, like incredible, absolutely incredible.
At every game, at some point in every game we've played so far, I thought the Bears might lose or they could lose. At no point during this Browns game did I ever feel like this game was in jeopardy. It just was, I don't know. It was completely dominant from start to finish. If you're a Browns fan, it must have been horrible to watch because there was like very few positives that you could take away from it. It was just Ben Johnson not smiling. Like he said, we desperately need this win, right? He was just like basically like, nope, we're not messing around. We have to have this game. The other 3 games we have left are very tough. The Bears needed this one, and they did it convincingly. So it was good to see. I think we were talking about something to be nitpicky about, and I know this is a topic that you've brought up before in the past, is do you worry when you say the Bears are a contender, do you worry about the kicking situation going into the playoffs? Do you feel like that's something they need to address? I mean, it's hard to address it mid-season, but do you think it's something they should look at before the playoff run?
Well, we did address it mid-season, bringing in Jake Moody when we could, and they should have stuck with him, really. I'm not. I'm tough on Santos. That accuracy mid-range over the course of his career isn't good. That 30 to 39 yard stat isn't good, and he's got to miss in that range this year. He's never made a kick over 55 yards, right? So, if it comes down to a tough playoff game and, you're sitting there on a 4th and 4, but we need a 58 yarder. Like, we don't have it, right? So you got to go. And maybe you don't have the time to go. So I'm worried about it. I don't think we can rely on our kicking game. I don't know that we address it. I mean, he's got 1.1 mil in dead cap next year and over 500K the year after that. I don't know that you want to, because he signed a pretty good extension. So I'm not sure that you want to eat 1.1 mil. We probably can, without having to sign Caleb quite yet, but I don't love it.
That's a good point. I can see them eating it next year. I don't think, obviously, like you mentioned, they're not going to do anything in season. I think it's tough because Soldier Field's tough to kick in anyway. You probably want a kicker that has had a little bit of off season to play with the wind, the grass. It's kind of a weird stadium, and not just bring someone in a couple of weeks. Although Moody, like you said, did just fine. So who knows? That's a little bit of a concern I share as well. The other one is these weird late game scratches. Like we've had 2 weeks in a row where the week before on the defensive side of the ball, Kyler Gordon thought he was good to go, late game scratch. I think it threw off Dennis Allen's game plan, to be honest, when he was going up against the Packers, because that's a tough offense to go up against. Now you're short, second, third best defender. It didn't matter as much this week because the offense didn't necessarily need Rome. But again, at warm-ups, late game scratch. I don't know. I don't know if there's something weird with the training staff or what they're doing there, but I'm worried that Rome is probably going to miss the next this Saturday's game for sure, and maybe even a couple after that.
Yeah, it is strange, right? Kyler now on IR, so he wasn't going to make it. Rome, they were saying like, isn't so bad. What are they telling us? What are they not telling us? Honestly, I think you park them for now. I think let's see how this week goes. if we beat the Packers and the Lions lose to the Steelers, we're in regardless, right? So let's see if that situation plays out and save them for save. Obviously, Kyler can't come back to the playoffs anyway, but save Rome. Like maybe we don't need him right now, so don't stress it out. If he's going to be scratched right before a game, especially since 8 p.m. on Saturday, can't imagine it's going to be friendly conditions. It might not be as cold as this weekend, but it's not going to be fun.
No, and I think we should probably pivot. I mean, the Browns game was great. I don't know if there's a lot for us to dissect there, but the Saturday's game is huge, right? And if Rome can't go, and now Luther left the game with an injury as well, and he's day-to-day with an ankle injury. I know Green Bay's got their own problems on that, on their side in terms of health, but now you're down, Luther, and you're down Rome heading into a must-win game. I think I'd rather have guys down on the offensive side of the ball, to be honest, than the defensive side of the ball, because I just trust Ben's schemes really more than anything in terms of next man up. How do you feel? Do you feel differently, or do you think that they would be okay going in without Rome and Luther?
Yeah, I mean, I don't love having both of them out, but I would rather them not play and be ready for the Niners than this particular game. I think one of the biggest things to watch for, one of the biggest storylines, is the health of the wide receivers this week, because throw Christian Watson in that, right? We don't know if he's going to be back for Saturday either. And, you saw what he did to us last time. So
2 touchdowns, man.
Yeah. So, Zacchaeus has gotten a lot of time. I know it's kind of been a bit of a roller coaster for him. He came out the gate hot, and then, he had some drop issues, but, he could step in there. He's gotten the reps. You can use Swifty in the pass game. So I think Ben can scheme for missing those guys better than risking them if they're not, ready to go.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. And Loveland is just turning into a beast before our eyes, man.
Oh, awesome.
He catches everything. That fingertip catch when it's negative 20 degrees outside, he's a beast, man. He's a baller. One guy that can't catch out of the backfield is Monangai. Yeah, it's great. It's great. And I think the reason that Zacchaeus gets more snaps is Luther's a pretty good run blocker. He's getting better, but Zacchaeus knows the scheme so well. He's usually in the right spot for the run blocking. And I think Ben really has a lot of faith in him in that aspect. And I know earlier in the season, people were like, oh, why is Zacchaeus getting so many snaps? Luther should be getting all of his snaps. Well, Luther didn't know half the playbook because he missed half a training camp, right? So he didn't fully understand the outside zone blocking scheme the way Ben likes to run it. He's slowly getting more and more of the playbook, and you see him just dominating all that. So I think at some point he will, but I think that was part of the reason that Zacchaeus was playing a lot more early.
Yeah, the other thing too is you could put Zacchaeus and DJ on one side and then free up Komet or Loveland to be underneath, or Swift to be under there, because they're both great at blocking, right? So you can do some things with them, and Ben's obviously smart enough to do that kind of stuff. So I'm with you. I don't love it, but I would rather them be healthy than put them out there.
For sure. So how do you see this Packers game going?
Man, this is a tough one. I think it's definitely a revenge game. Obviously, the Bears are going to be hyped up because, it's really the driver for the division now with Detroit losing again. I know it's really anyone's game still with 3 games left in the season, but, if we go to 11, that makes the road for Detroit significantly harder. I think we established the run early. I think with Micah Parsons out, that's a gift.
Yes.
I don't hope for injuries. I think we're going to have to figure out how to dial up the right pressures and the right help in the secondary, so that we don't get burned over the top again. We saw it again. Shadur even exploited some of it, right? If he was a little bit better, had a little bit more time, he probably completes more passes for us. But we had a couple times where they were streaking across the middle against our linebackers, and our safeties were late to get over there. So I think they got to work on that this week and be ready, to close that gap faster.
And Jalen got cooked on some of those too. So did Chauncey. But Jalen, he looks, even against Cleveland, he looks a little slow still. I think he's still getting his legs underneath him. I mean, he wasn't always the fastest guy. He's more he's got good technique and he's like kind of a stronger corner, so he can knock you off your line a little bit. So speed was never really his big thing, but even he looked a little slower than normal. I mean, that pick was kind of lucky that he had. That Judy should have caught that, right? And I don't know, just kind of like fell into Jalen's hands.
That pick was the defensive equivalent to the insane touchdown Caleb threw, right? Like,
yeah,
they had the same feeling where it's like, oh man, this isn't going to go well, right? And it was like, oh man, like he caught that. And he's like, wait, hold on a second. And the way JJ like kept it tight with the camera angle from the TV, like, you didn't know he had it for a really long time, and then it's like, oh, that was a pick right there. That's crazy.
Cool. Yeah. There was a lot of cool moments. I mean, in that game, the DeMarco Jackson pick was really cool. Dropping back into coverage. That dude has been unsung hero, man. Like stepping up when the entire linebacking core is depleted. Oh, we didn't talk about maybe getting Tremaine Edmonds back on Saturday too.
Yeah.
But DeMarco Jackson has been really, like, from practice squad to where he is now. He's a big reason the Bears are like having that defensive success that they're having.
Yeah, and think about it, like, we get him back and we have just an extra piece of depth, right? You can rotate people in, keep people fresh, especially in games that are more grueling. We can stay fresher, and how many teams can say that, right? So
yeah,
kind of a blessing in disguise. Like, injuries when we had them, still won a bunch of games during that time period. Weathered that storm, and we have the depth now and the experience, right? So great to see him back. I think the speed on the secondary, that's where like the Kyler hit is, right? That guy was all over the place all the time.
Yes.
And that's I don't want to I would love to see him back for this game because I think it's a huge difference maker, but I would rather wait again, like, know that he's good for the long haul, because I got higher aspirations now. If you would ask me this 3 or 4 weeks ago, when we were down to the wire against all these teams, okay, like, still ahead of schedule, we're good. Now it's like, we're here, like, we're on it.
Just grab it. Yeah, I actually we did some bold predictions on Bears on Tap earlier this week, and my bold prediction was I don't think the Bears are going to lose another game in the regular season. I think they're going to win the next 3.
I heard you say that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hot take. It was supposed to be a hot take, but I don't see any reason why they can't, put it that way.
Hey, here's the thing. I made a bold prediction on this show in the beginning of the season that we'd be a top 10 run team. And I thought that was going to be a stretch. We're a top 2 run team now.
You're a top 2 run team. So you saw that coming. What's funny, I just thought of this too, is the Christian Watson, Kyler Gordon dynamic, right? They're both drafted in the same year. And these two guys are so good for their teams, but they're so hurt all the time, and it's like, same thing happened with Watson again. Torched us. And then he like dives, maybe hurt his collarbone, but it's not that serious. I don't know. He just always seems like he's hurt. And it stinks for Packer fans and Packer Nation, but if he doesn't go, it's a big break for the Bears, especially with Tremaine Edmonds coming back. None of those other guys are really speedsters. They like to work the middle of the field, and that's where Tremaine just like hangs out. He's so long and athletic. He's going to help in coverage. He's going to help some of the corners. So that's going to be a big boost for the Bears if it breaks that way.
Yeah, I don't know. With Parsons out too, I don't know what Ozzy's going to be doing. He's going to be like parked, like dominating. I mean, look at, he didn't give up a sack until he faced Myles Garrett, but faced Max Crosby, no sacks. Micah Parsons the first time, no sacks. TJ Watt, no sacks. So like, no Parsons on the other side. Like, that's lockdown over there.
It was actually pretty interesting how they used Parsons the first time. They stunted quite a bit and brought Parsons inside on Jonah Jackson quite a bit. But whenever he was with Ozzy, Ozzy did fine. I like Ozzy. I think he has the potential to be a left tackle, which would be huge for the Bears, right? Like, it's a position that they don't need to address in draft or free agency, and then they can use more of that draft capital on an edge rusher, which is something that we know that they really desperately need.
Yeah, 100%.
So, all right. So I guess any closing thoughts on? Yeah, I guess I think we said it all. Do you think the Bears are going to win against the Packers on Saturday?
I do. I thought the Bears were going to win before this injury front thing. I thought we were going to get them 1 out of 2. We'd get them at home, especially after losing. And it was a close one with them at full strength. you know, you had mentioned it on, I think, one of the On Tap Sports podcasts of, it was a high speed, high impact game against us, and they have to go and do the same thing at Denver. Now they got to do it a third week in a row.
Yeah.
That's a grueling stretch for Green Bay and being down a few people. So I do think they come out with the win here.
I'm gonna take it a step further, and I've got I'm going full meatball on this one. I think the Bears win by double digits against the Packers on Saturday.
Oh, nice.
I think they're so deflated. First of all, yeah, and you mentioned those stats, right? Teams that play against the Bears, the next week they're like 2-9 or 2-1, whatever, right? It's a physical game. Same thing with Denver. They're like teams that play Denver the next week, they're like 1 something or 2 something. So now they get the Bears, Denver, and then the Bears again. They just lost their defensive leader. I don't know if you saw the interview with Rashawn Gary in the locker room afterwards. His head was down. He's just like had no answers. They're like, they feel defeated. Now they might get up again, right? That was spur of the moment. They might get up again to play the Bears, but I feel like the Bears are the team that smells the blood. They got a bad taste in their mouth. I don't know if you watched the latest Good, Better, Best video. When DeMarco Jackson got one of the game balls, the first thing he said was, "This is great to get this one, but I still got a bad taste in my mouth from last week, and that's what I want. I want the game ball for next week. That's the one that matters, and that's what he wants." So I think these guys are like ready. So I think the Bears. I think they're going to win by double digits.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I mean, there's definitely a difference in momentum, right? Like we're amped up. We're coming off of a win, coming off of the previous loss at Green Bay. They're coming off a loss and a significant loss for Green Bay. And you look at how big of a loss that was for Dallas when they lost him, right? It's taken that defense down a significant notch. Like there aren't many Micah Parsons in this league. I don't see how that's not deflating for them. I do think they will step up just because it's a Bears-Packers game and that rivalry juices people up. But I think we come out with it. And I think it's comfortable too. I don't know necessarily if we get to double digits, but I'll take it. I would love a Saturday, I should say, with my feet up watching the Bears just trounce all over Green Bay.
And I see you got what are you drinking tonight?
I have a batch 1 Booker's from 2025 today.
Oh wow, look at that. Very fancy.
I
was thinking about opening up excellent. I had some Michter's last night. I was thinking about having a garage beer, but then I'm nowhere near the beer fridge, so here we are with nothing.
Well, and where else can we find you, Samir?
Oh yeah, good call. Yeah, so at ontapsportsnet.com, all my articles are there. You can find me at @smpatel06. I always struggle through that at @smpatel06. And I post all my articles there and do the Bears on Tap preview show and post game show now, so you can find me on there too. So. Thanks a lot, Neil. Where can they find you if you're a big poster? I don't think you're a big poster.
I'm not out there much, so you're going to have to swing by the house if you want to find me.
All right. Well, as we get out of here, thanks, Neil, so much for joining us on Bears in the Neighborhood. It's a pleasure to have you on. And I think before we close it out, we have some final words from Chirag from Paris that we can close the show on this. So, hopefully this comes through. Enjoy.
Bonjour from France.
Arrivederci.
That's my British friend. We just left a Canadian bar playing American football in Paris.
Serving American food.
Serving American food and not playing the Bears game. So we don't actually really know what happened, but we want to say shout out to the Bears for a big victory. Biggest Bears fan in Paris. Cheers. Tell them something in a nice British language,
I still think the Bears will get to the playoffs and maybe Super Bowl soon.
You heard it first. Bears in the Neighborhood, baby.
We'll catch you guys next week. Neil, you want to give us a bear down?
Bear down.